In the history of sitcoms, few have found such heights as the 9-year CBS comedy How I Met Your Mother. Throughout its run, it placed consistently in the top 50 TV shows according to the Nielsen ratings. It even outdueled The Office, Parks and Rec, and 30 Rock, despite being bested by Modern Family and especially The Big Bang Theory, or, as Drew Gooden says,
Virgin nerd guy, say smart thing.
How I Met Your Mother was certainly a heavyweight in its own time. The cast were all elevated to great fame, and the story, creative writing, and comedy brought along a large swath of die-hard fans who crafted theories about the mother and cheered Barney on every time he committed questionable acts in the name of sex. But it wasn't always good time with the gang. How I Met Your Mother was long one of the most consistent shows on television, with none of its first 7 seasons ever dropping below an 8 average on IMDb. In fact, no single episode in the first 6 seasons was ranked below a 7.5 out of 10, with the final 3 seasons making up for this disparity. 22 of the final 72 episodes fell below this threshold, and 19 of the final 48. That's almost 50%. But no 5-episode stretch fell lower than the stretch we'll be looking at today. Season 9, episodes 10 through 14.
That's bad.
So, let's set the scene. Season 9 is set in the weekend of the marriage of 2 main characters, Barney Stinson and Robin Scherbatsky. Robin is from Canaan, and Barney is quite the womanizer. They both have daddy issues.
You give me my son now.
You were gonna be some lame suburban dad. Why couldn't you have been that for me?
Marshall is married to Lily and is driving to the wedding with this lady, Daphne, because of inclement weather after visiting his family in Minnesota. Marshall and Lily are planning on moving to Rome for a year soon, but Marshall was offered a judge position he took behind Lily's back. Ted is a hopelessly romantic in the series and a key part of the group, but accepted a job in Chicago away from the gang because he still loves Robin, who is marrying Barney. Only Lily knows about Chicago, and there's the mom. She was introduced at the end of season 8 and slowly working her way into the fold.
Also, I went on The Price is Right and I want a dune buggy.
Cause you had a bad day.
Now, let's get into it. This episode falls as the 3rd best episode of the 5-episode stretch. As it said, Barney and Robin need a minister to perform their wedding ceremony. Luckily, Barney's half-brother James's father Sam, is a minister. Thanks to the wedding, Barney has his biological father and his mother in town as well. This episode basically just recycles the classic parent trap trope as an A-plot as Barney tries to reignite the love between his parents through some often questionable means. This is all despite the fact that his father Jerome is married and they haven't seen each other in 30 years. The B-plot, which really is more of an A2 plot, finds recurring character William Zabka thrust into the limelight. A rare gift to Robin from Barney, a signed Wayne Gretzky headshot, has been destroyed by some loose ink. But don't fret, because the Mosby boys are on the case. With the help of Lily, it is discovered that Zabka sabotaged Ted in a ploy for the bestmanship. In the end, Ted forgives him and takes the blame. Back to the A-plot, after sparring with his brother James, including a catchy but very misplaced performance by the multi-talented interracial bros,
My dad would win in a fight. No, my dad would win in a fight. No, my dad would win in a fight.
it is revealed that Loretta is dating Sam, James's father. Robin talks to her fiancé, letting them see that James needs this because he is going through a divorce. The C-plot finds Marshall help Daphne show up to her daughter's speech. After her initial dismay about missing it, she makes it just in time, and the daughter is very happy to see her. So, there you have it. Season 9, Episode 10. Did you notice anything? Anything missing? Anything at all? I mean, we got Zabka time. That's basically what this whole series is about, right? I mean, that's what this poster says. Oh, wait. That's right. It's How I Met Your Mother. I'm so silly. In a whole 21 minutes and 35 seconds, with less than 15 episodes remaining in the 9-year quest for the mother, she is not mentioned, seen, or heard of at all. In fact, this is a thoroughly unromantic episode, focusing more on comedy, with the C-plot trying to carry the episode emotionally. And that's fine. I love comedic episodes where Ted isn't just used to being the king of the Sims. But this episode falls flat. The A-plot relies heavily on uncomfortable humor, such as Barney helping his parents hook up and forcing situations upon them. This has never been my thing. It gives me much more cringy annoyance than laughter. And you say, yeah, it worked in The Office. But does it? I mean, putting the main character in awkward circumstances or self-induced cringe is one thing. But Barney is doing this to his parents. Two parents who have been used almost exclusively for character building instead of comedic purposes. We don't want to see them here. We can't relate to their hijinks, and further, no hijinks are even pulled here, no jokes cracked. His parents are just tired of it. It reminds me of Michael firing Pam in the first episode of The Office. That wasn't funny. At that point, we don't know Pam. From what we have seen at that point, she's just an exasperated worker being taken advantage of by a cruel, manipulative boss, which is what Michael was at that point. And I don't want to see Barney in that light because he's so much more. However, there are definitely some good jokes in this episode. For example, this exchange between Robin and Barney is hilarious. I love these innocent jokes that show Barney as just a goofball.
Dreamed of a reunited family, but Jerry's married.
So what? Marriage is just a meaningless piece of paper.
I'm a lucky gal. Sweetie, this just isn't gonna happen. Now, please promise me you haven't already put some crazy scheme in motion.
I haven't put some crazy scheme in motion.
Why did you pause?
I didn't pause.
Why did you pause?
Overall, with no emotional connection between the viewer and Daphne, the episode loses its touching element and feels weightless, because that's really the main emotional plot of the episode. And because we don't care about her, we don't care. This was a clear filler episode that doesn't advance the plot in any way. Throw it in season 1 through 8, and I think we're talking about an average episode here. But with so little time remaining in the series, it's just unacceptable to not mention the mother, the title character, and the only reason the show was continuing to get good viewership, or to add to any of the 3 other main storylines in the show right now. With such a clear lack of plot importance, I understand the unfavorable rating.
Cause you had a bad day.
Marvin,
She noted.
these rhymes make you tired.
And ever since then,
This episode to me was charming, but a little alarming. You see, this episode merits praise to the writers. It starts with Marshall on a bus with other writers. He tries to get his sweet baby Marvin to sleep soundly, but the only way he can do that is to rhyme quite devoutly. Okay, that's enough of that. This episode sees Marshall as a narrator telling stories about the gang in order to lull Marvin to sleep. The only catch is, they must rhyme. Ted goes on a date with the professor and finds out Barney's been there already.
In the room, why don't we just remove it? I dated Derek Jeter. Here's a picture that'll prove it.
Robin eats an entire cake to get back at her ex Simon, who just got back with Louise Marsh because his place has a pool, or a jacuzzi.
Door there came a rapping.
I did something bad.
And Barney has disputes with the other players from different boroughs.
Barney Stinson, player king of New York City.
I mean, what can I say? This episode has no business being in the show this late. The mother is not mentioned. None of the major plots are hit on for the second straight episode. Are you noticing a theme? And the stories are fantastical in some instances and would be relegated to 30-second quips in other episodes. I applaud the writing staff for this episode because it really does have a charm to it that all rhyming things do, but it's inexcusable to detour from the main plot so severely. As all binge watchers know, the worst thing to come across while streaming is the dreaded clips episode. Flashbacks and the like we have already seen. They do it in Friends, and those were always my least favorite episodes, but luckily, these bedtime stories are not recycled material from previous episodes, but the viewer is just as good having never seen them, because there's no plot importance at all. This episode's low rating is deserved.
And that, kids, is the very first thing your cousin Marvin remembers.
Cause you had a bad day.
In this episode, we are shown a Barney who has seemingly deluded himself into thinking that Robin is throwing him a surprise laser tag-themed rehearsal dinner. We open with him locked up in a laser tag security office. He details the story of his relationship since the engagement, and there are some hilarious bits in there. A favorite of mine throughout the series is these bar montages.
Anyway.
You know, I thought it might be nice to get married in Canada.
Where you can tell the writers are just emptying their brains and probably having tons of fun. This is my favorite joke from their Canada-centric banter.
So if it's Canada, just say the word. And then say it again in French.
Barney pulls a harsh surprise on Robin, and the group tries to tell him no surprises is the best part of marriage, that you can really trust people. But he can't get it out of his head. Oh yeah, and Ted is dressed up as Liberace to perform at the rehearsal dinner. After some hijinks and some really good jokes,
You know how she's gonna do it, and you're gonna tell me. Or do I have to get my face even closer to yours?
Lily reveals Marshall's acceptance of the judgeship to Ted and Robin and her, and Ted have a nice talk, but no resolution happens on that front. Ted calms Lily by revealing the plan to her. At the end of the episode, we find out that it was actually Barney playing a Canada-themed rehearsal dinner in an ice rink. It ends up being a very wholesome moment between the two and the whole gang, as Barney had planned this whole thing for Robin. It also includes a very suave speech by Barney, as only he can do it. Neil Patrick Harris is by far the best character in this show.
Every now and then, I am gonna lie to you. I just am. If it's in the interest of an amazing surprise, that is. You're gonna get bamboozled, hoodwinked. Heck, I'll just say it. You're gonna get snowed.
But that single plot is able to carry the entire episode both emotionally and comedically. It's able to strengthen the relationship between Barney and Robin, reinforce the best qualities of Barney and Ted, which for Barney is his love for his friends, and for Ted is his caring nature. But there are some clear downsides. This episode is almost entirely Marshall-less. No matter the reasons why, the lack of Marshall just makes the show feel empty. As this is a Barney-centric episode, Marshall wouldn't have been as involved emotionally in the plot anyways, because, as we all know, Barney is better friends with Ted, and usually gets most of his advice from Lily instead of Marshall. But in Marshall's absence, Ted has to assume the role of the goofball, and some are made up by extra Barney time and a good performance by the security guard. But the lack of a fleshed out B-plot hurts the episode as well, with Lily's unhappiness only getting a couple of lines. Again, the mother is not even mentioned. That's the third episode in a row. And it's just ludicrous because there's about 10 episodes remaining. Overall, this episode works very well for the theme of the season and should be applauded, but its lack of Marshall and lack of connection with the series through plot makes this low rating acceptable.
I can't believe today was a good day.
Is there any surprise that the highest rated episode in this stretch also features the mother the most? It's almost as though that's why we watch the show. So, Marshall decided he could walk from the broken down bus from the rhyming episode.
Yes, it was another exciting installment of
Marshall versus the Machines.
The mother makes a nice comedic entrance, scaring Marshall as though she knows everything about him before revealing that she has met Lily. They get talking and it comes up that Tracy, the mother, is in the wedding band and that she is having issues with the main singer who is a master manipulator. Flash to the wonderful Andrew Rannells from the Book of Mormon and other things. He uses his evil gift to instigate fights between Lily and Robin and Ted and Barney. He's basically a plot device in that essence. And the good thing about this episode is that both fights actually have emotional weight behind them, unlike the fights of the Mom and Dad episode, which did not lead to character growth for anyone but William Zabka. All characters here have empathetic stances for the viewer. Lily's mad at Marshall because it's her dream to move to Italy. Robin sees that the judgeship is also Marshall's dream, and she doesn't want to lose her best friend. Seems like Lily has become so enveloped in this idea of moving that she's forgetting that she's leaving all of her best friends behind. Ted and Barney fight after Ted said he wouldn't go to jail for Barney, which is a very funny bit in the show, and
It's the most noble, nay, broable thing a bro can do for a fellow bro.
and after Andrew Rannells, named Darren in this episode, reveals Ted is moving to Chicago. Barney is understandably hurt.
You're moving to Chicago? He's moving to Chicago!
Hurt and thinks he doesn't mean anything to Ted.
I'm just some guy you used to know back in New York.
This is one of the
I know
later
Marshall
times
and
Barney
Lily might
is
leave, but
confronted
it's
directly
only
with the
a
fact
year.
that
In the
his
meantime,
best
we'll still see
friend
each
is
other
in
all the
love with
time.
his
You, me,
wife.
Robin. Oh.
And it hurts. But Barney does not try to talk him out of it or get annoyed about Ted's feelings for Robin. They both act extremely mature, acknowledging the predicament, and that Chicago is a good idea for Ted, because he really needs it. Marshall returns and him and Lily pause their fight because they love each other far too much to be angry after being reunited. Their characters are boosted every time the audience is able to see them grow in love and as a family. That's something this episode really gets right. Finally, in one of my favorite scenes, Darren accidentally knocks a $600 bottle of Glen McKenna scotch out of Ted's hand, destroying it for the third time this weekend. Ted punches Darren, who skedaddles, leaving Tracy with her full band again. It's a beautiful, serendipitous ending that shows just how much Ted and Tracy were meant to be together.
What, that's funny to you? You know what? I quit. You can have your stupid band back.
Linus, whoever that best man is, I would like to buy him a double of your finest scotch.
You started a band.
Now, let's review this episode. The stories all worked. A, B, and C. Each one was emotionally strong, with each resolution building the characters as better people all around. We see Tracy become even closer to the gang, now meshing well with Ted's best friend. As for comedy, this installment sits a bit heavier than other episodes, especially the filler episodes that we were looking at before. Less comedy.
No, it's good. It'll be easy to say goodbye now that I know how much I mean to you.
But however, there are some things that work well because we know the characters and how they think. I found it hilarious that Robin was seemingly happy with the fact that Barney urinates a lot.
How often does Barney pee in public? A lot.
Lily thinks Robin is sexy, that bit is replayed, and Marshall gets scared as soon as Tracy acts supernatural.
Then he gets tired and it's just you and me going at it.
Lily?
That'd be so stupid. So stupid.
I really like this episode, the ending specifically, and the post-ending, which sets up the next slap.
Head.
It merits the high rating.
Wedding photos.
Hand it over now, travel breath.
Okay, Barney, I'll hand it over.
Oh god, it's the next stop. I don't know why I was so obnoxious.
Cause you had a bad day.
Now for the worst rated episode in the history of How I Met Your Mother. Oh wait, what's that? Oh, this series has a universally hated ending that caused the last episode to be bottom rated. All because of a twist ending in the last 5 minutes? I mean, that doesn't sound right, but okay. Now for the second worst rated episode in the history of How I Met Your Mother. And I'll save you the trouble if you want to get out now. It deserves the hate. This episode is fully and completely centered around the fourth slap. Titled Slappointment in Slapmara, it alludes to an old Mesopotamian fable called Appointment in Samara, about a man who rides away from death on a horse, thinking he is escaping, only to run to exactly where death will be escaping. And the catch? The horse's name was Friday. Basically, no one can escape death, just as Barney cannot escape this slap. These 5 slaps won over from Marshall in a slap bet against Barney as one of the longest running gags in the series. It all started in season 1, episode 9, Slap Bet. Interestingly enough, Slap Bet acts as a bookend for the highest rated stretch in How I Met Your Mother history. But as its counterpart acts as a bookend for the lowest rated stretch in How I Met Your Mother history, it'd be fair to say that they missed the mark here. It is astounding to me that Carter Bays and Craig Thomas, the creators and writers of the show, made a conscious decision 2 out of the final 15 episodes of the series to forget all of the continuing plot lines, to put in 2 complete gag episodes, this and the rhyming episode, without even a mention of the mother, of Cleveland, of the wedding, or of Italy. Instead, Marshall details his harrowing journey to learn the art of the slap. He travels to these Masters 3 to learn. There are maybe 3 or 4 good jokes in this episode.
As my training continued, I also learned the delicate art of Chinese painting.
That looks nothing like this bowl of fruit!
My training went on.
Otherwise, the viewer doesn't care. It may be entertaining for those fans who really love the slap episodes and Marshall's whimsicality. The lore behind the slaps, I don't know if that really needed to be explored. We know what a slap is. We know this is all a fiction. This episode is a perfect example of fanfare gone too far. They aren't beating a dead horse as much as they are slaughtering a horse right in front of us. Grey's Anatomy did it probably about 20 seasons ago. It was very clear in Glee when the shtick died. This isn't a bad story, but why now? For the love of Pete, why now? This episode just reveals what everyone knows about this season, that the writers pigeonholed themselves by fitting everything into this wedding weekend. It just wasn't plausible to write enough stories that happen in real time. They just can't, they have to use these flashback imaginative episodes. It's clear they messed this one up. And I would say that this is a bad episode, even if there was a Boyz II Men cover of the Slaps Giving song at the end. I mean, can you imagine? Okay, I like it now. So that was the lowest rated 5-episode stretch in How I Met Your Mother history. Overall, I love this show. I think that it had a bad ending, obviously, but besides that, it's probably my favorite series of all time. I think the story is so strong. It just makes me so mad that they forgot about the story in so many of these episodes. But I cannot thank you enough for sticking with me in this long-ass video. I enjoyed looking at this stretch impartially, having not watched the series in a long time. But I think any rational viewer could conclude that the slap episode and the rhyming episode were clearly the weakest link. The narrative of these episodes is so bottled. They can stand on their own completely, which is okay. But what that really means is that they don't belong in the puzzle that makes the whole series. They're just their own thing. They don't contribute to the bigger picture in the slightest. So here are my final rankings for these episodes. I put Rehearsal Dinner ahead of Bass Player Wanted because I really enjoyed the Barney and Robin relationship and fleshing that out. I think Barney is the strongest character on the show, and putting him in the highest position makes the most enjoyable episodes for me. And the use of Darren as a plot device to confront issues is slightly cheap to me. I preferred the real confrontations based on the differing personalities of Robin and Barney about trust and surprises in relationships. But hey, that's my ratings. Once again, thanks for watching the video. You are the best. I hope you all sleep well and watch another of my videos if you would like. Let me know how I can improve. I like doing this, but I'm not really sure how I'm doing. I feel like I talked too much about the plot in this video, but I wanted y'all to know about them, as really all the rankings are just subjective. So I wanted to let y'all decide and just put some of my own opinions in there as well. Alrighty, have a great day. Bye.